Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayet. Shrinvatam Svakataha Krishna Punyashravana Kirtanaha Hridayantosto hi apatrani Vidunoti Shruti Satam Nashtaprayeshu apatreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevayam Bhagavate Uttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtiki. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 22, verses 28 and 29. Verse 28. Atmanam indriyartam cha param yad ubhayor api sati asaya upadhau vai puman pashyati na anyada. Translation. When the soul exists for sense gratification, he creates different desires, and for that reason he becomes subjected to designations. But when one is in the transcendental position, he is no longer interested in anything except fulfilling the desires of the Lord. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Spirit soul is also considered to be covered by designations belonging to a particular type of body. Thus he considers himself an animal, man, demigod, bird, beast, etc. In so many ways, he is influenced by false identification caused by false egotism, and being covered by illusory material desires, he distinguishes between matter and spirit. When one is devoid of such distinctions, there is no longer a difference between matter and spirit. At that time, the spirit is the only predominating factor. As long as one is covered by material desires, he thinks himself the master or the enjoyer. Thus, he acts for sense gratification and becomes subjected to material pangs, happiness, and distress. But when one is freed from such a concept of life, and he envisions everything as spiritual in connection with the Supreme Lord. This is explained by Sri Rupa Goswami in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.2.255. Anakshatasya vishayam yataharam upayunjataha nirbandha Krishna sambandhe yuktam vairakyam uchayate. The liberated person has no attachment for anything material or for sense gratification. He understands that everything is connected with the Supreme Personality of Godhead and that everything should be engaged in the service of the Lord. Therefore, he does not give up anything. There is no question of renouncing anything because the Paramahamsa knows how to engage everything in the service of the Lord. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya 8.274, also it is explained that Mahabhagavata, a highly advanced devotee, has no material vision. Stavara Jangama Deke Na Deke Tara Murti Sarvatra Haye Nija Ishtadeva Spurti. Although he sees trees, mountains, and other living entities moving here and there, he sees all as the creation of the Supreme Lord, and with reference to the context, he sees only the creator and not the created. In other words, he no longer distinguishes between the created and the created. He sees only the Supreme Personality of Godhead in everything. He sees Krishna in everything and everything in Krishna. This is oneness. Text 29. Nimitte sati sarvatra jaladau api purushaha atmanascha parasayapi bhidam pashyati na anyada. Translation. Only because of different causes does a person see a difference between himself and others, just as one sees the reflection of a body appearing differently manifested on water and oil or in a mirror. Purport. The spirit soul is one, the supreme personality of Godhead. He is manifested in Swamsha and Vibhinnamsha expansions. The Jivas are Vibhinnamsha's expansions. The different incarnations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are Swamsha expansions. Thus, there are different potencies of the Supreme Lord, and there are different expansions of the different potencies. In this way, for different reasons, there are different expansions of the same one principle, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This understanding is a real knowledge, but when the living entity is covered by the upadhi or the designated body, he sees differences, exactly as one sees difference in reflection of oneself on water, on oil, or in a mirror. When something is reflected on the water, it appears to be moving. When it is reflected on ice, it appears fixed. When it is reflected on oil, it appears hazy. The subject is one, but under different conditions it appears differently. When the calling factor is taken away, the whole appears to be one. In other words, when one comes to the Paramahamsa or perfectional stage of life, by practicing Bhakti Yoga, he sees only Krishna everywhere. For him, there is no other objective. In conclusion, due to different causes, the living entity is visible in different forms as an animal, human being, demigod, tree, etc. Actually, every living entity is the marginal potency of the Supreme Lord. In Bhagavad Gita 5.18, therefore, it is explained that one who actually sees the spirit soul does not distinguish between a learned Brahmana and a dog, an elephant, or a cow. Panditaha Samadarshana. One who is actually learned sees only the living entity, not the outward covering. Differentiation is therefore the result of different karma or fruitive activities, and when we stop fruitive activities, turning them into acts of devotion, we can understand that we are not different from anyone else, regardless of the form. This is only possible in Krishna consciousness. In this movement, there are many different races of men from all parts of the world participating, but because they think of themselves as servants of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they do not differentiate between black and white, yellow and red. The Krishna consciousness movement is therefore the only means to make the living entities free for all designations. नमों विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमती भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी इति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चातदेशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे राम 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 हरे हरे. I like to seek blessings from all the assembled Vaishnavas and thank you for giving me an opportunity to purify myself. So please forgive me for any shortcomings. So the moment the living entity wants to engage in sense gratification, forgetting his real identity, his downfall begins by identifying him to be the body and thus continues to fall down and becomes engaged in sinful activities in order to fulfill his desires, wanting to lord over the material nature. This is just like when you are solving a mathematical sum which involves various steps, and if one commits a mistake at the initial step and not identifying it and continues till the end, resulting in an incorrect answer. So, from this, it can be easily concluded that the desire is the root cause of the downfall of a living entity, which causes living entity to falsely identify and making distinctions between the matter and the spirit. Having said that, it is not possible to uproot the desires because it is an intrinsic nature of a soul. So, the only means to address is by diverting the desires to Krishna consciousness from material consciousness. Thus, one who is devoid of distinctions, for such an individual, there is no difference between matter and spirit. He beholds everything to be Krishna. For such a liberated person, there will be no attachment to the material objects. He understands that everything is connected with the Supreme Personality of the Godhead and that everything should be engaged in the service of the Lord. Therefore, he does not give up anything. So, there is no necessity of renouncing anything because the Paramahamsa knows how to engage everything in the service of the Lord, as everything belongs to Krishna and should be used in the service of Him. One should know that everything is spiritual. When one knows this, he no longer distinguishes between the created and the creator. He sees only the Supreme Personality of Godhead in everything. He sees Krishna in everything and everything in Krishna. This is this kind of a statement Krishna also makes in in Bhagavad Gita. We all have understood from scriptures that Krishna has many potencies. Majorly, they are subcategorized into three. One is internal potency, which is also known as Antaranga Shakti or Chitta Shakti, and second is marginal potency, Tatastha Shakti, and third is the external potency, that is Maya. We belong to the marginal potency, Tatastha Shakti, and as we are provided with senses and mind, the living entity very easily experiences the outside world, that is Prakriti, and when on getting association with the material nature, he gets deluded because of the very variegatedness nature of the Maya. And he completely forgets its internal energy identity that he is a part and parcel of the supreme whole. This delusion, when arises due to contact of living entity with Maya, results in a false ahamkara, allowing desires to enjoy the variegatedness of the Prakriti, Maya, and gets entangled deeper and deeper and falls into darker region where he completely becomes unaware of his real identity. Now, Krishna, being very merciful, he created humans and endowed them with intelligence so that living entities in human form can at least approach him. If the intelligence is misutilized by not engaging to know Krishna and instead it is again put to use for material enjoyment, then there is no difference between human and any other living animals or trees. When initially I heard Prabhupada's lectures, we quite often hear him scolding all of us by saying, "You rascal and foolish," which is a bit uncomfortable for all of us to digest it or accept it. I always used to think why he uses such words which makes us feel down or humiliate. But now I totally agree with it. And indeed, we are really very foolish and rascals. And sometimes I really thank Prabhupada for making us realize how fool and rascal we are for not engaging our intelligence for the right purpose. Now, when I hear him scolding in his lectures, I thank him deep in my heart for awakening all of us and guiding all of us on the right path. In the second verse, here it is spoken about the concept of Swamsha and Vibhinansha, which are related to the expansions and manifestations of the Supreme Lord. This is often discussed in context of Vishnu and his avatars like Krishna. Swamsha is also known as Vishnu Tvattva. Swamsha expansions are direct expansions, plenary portions of the Supreme Lord, and are essentially identical to the original source in terms of potency and divine nature. They are categorized as Vishnu Tattva, representing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There is another kind of an expansion which we are already knowing about Avesha Shakti. Right now we were discussing as Prithu Maharaj belongs to this category. Avesha Shakti is nothing but they are all exalted living entities and Supreme Lord empowers with a portion of his knowledge, strength, etc. are known as Aveshas. We find Avesha forms of Lord like Narada and Sanaka, even in Vaikuntha spiritual world. The four Kumaras, Maharaj Prithu, Parashurama, Lord Brahma, etc., are all examples of Avesha of the Supreme Lord. The power of knowledge was invested in four Kumaras. The power of devotional service was invested in Narad Muni. The power of creation was invested in Lord Brahma, and the power to bear innumerable planets was invested in Lord Ananta. The second kind of expansion is Vibhinansha, which is also known as Jiva Tattva. Vibhinansha are separated parts and parcels of the Lord, like individual souls, Jivas. They are qualitatively similar to the Lord but are quantitatively lesser in potency and considered Jiva Tattva, which is the philosophy of Lord Sri Chaitanya, while individual souls are considered Vibhinansha. Avatars like Rama, Narasimha, etc., though not considered Vibhinamsha, may be understood as expansion of Vishnu, who is himself a Swamsha expansion of Krishna. So, in essence, Swamsha expansions are like different candles burning with the same full flame, while Vibhinamshas are like sparks emanating from that flame. Krishna has Swayam Bhagavan as is the original source, and Vishnu is considered a Swamsha expansion of Krishna. Krishna's avatars, such as Rama and Narasimha, are generally seen as Swamsha expansion of Vishnu. If we accept Krishna as the supreme personality of Godhead and worship him, all the parts and expansions of the Lord are automatically worshipped. We should get firmly established in this knowledge by repeatedly doing manana, because when we take journey towards spiritualism by bhakti path or by any other means, we are swimming against the strongest current of the river, as we need to undo everything what we have been doing from time immemorial, because this world is the perverted reflection of spiritual world, and now we have to go opposite way of all we have been doing. We have to put a lot of endeavorness. That is why it is said it is better to remain in other bhaktas association. So when we feel hopelessness, or when we get a sense that we are not progressing anywhere, this association comes to play a pivotal role of uplifting us and helping us to continue our journey in spiritualism by seeing other bhaktas progressing. I wish I would have shared more, because this topic always fascinates and gives me a feel of there is no end, how much ever we discuss and share about it, and takes me more deeper and deeper towards spiritual realm. Well, I wish all the sadhakas that we all put all our effort to get established in this knowledge and progress by doing practical applications by what we are reading through Srimad Bhagavatam, the living name. And I thank you for all the sadhakas for helping me and purifying. So I end here for today's Srimad Bhagavatas